In the year 2122, the commercial space probe Nostromo will carry 20 million tons of mineral ore back to Earth. The crew consists of 7 people and a cat, housed in sleeping capsule. However, in the middle of S journey, the ship's computer, known as Mother, awakens the crew. Captain Dallas immediately goes to the computer room to ask Mother what the problem is while the rest of the crew checks the ship. Navigator Lambert is shocked because she cannot find Earth on screen and realizes that it is not in the solar system. She eventually finds Earth on map and realizes that they are much further away than they thought. Warrant Officer Ripley uses communication to contact control, but no one responds. A moment later, Dallas gathers the team and explains that Mother interrupted her sleep because she intercepted a transmission of unknown origin and wants them to check it out. The transmission looks like a beep that repeats at 12-second intervals, but they don't know if it's an SOS act, function, or person. The crew is upset because this is a cargo ship and not a rescue ship, and they want to go home. However, Dallas reminds them that if they don't continue the show, they won't get any money. The Nostromo follows a signal to an unknown planet, but when it gets close enough, turbulence occurs and the crew hears strange noises outside. They manage to land the ship, but as soon as it hits the ground, a massive explosion occurs, releasing electricity and causing ship to malfunction. The crew rushes to put out fires and check for damage to a systems rupture in the hull. As the lights cycle on and off, Chief Engineer Parker and Technician Brett do their best to repair the damage. Parker explains that they will need to do a lot of system reconfiguration to get the ship up and running again, which will take at least 25 hours. Dallas is upset because most of the channels on the ship are not working. The planet's environment is windy and hostile, and Science Officer Ash tells Dallas that Mother predicts the sun will rise in 20 minutes. CO Kane volunteers to call to find the transmission, and Dallas and Lambert agree to accompany him. The trio dons their suits and sets off, doing their best to circumnavigate the windy and dark planet, while Ripley continues to try and fail to find a signal in the ship's system. While exploring, the trio comes across a massive spaceship, which appears to be abandoned. Lambert is cautious and says they should go back, but the boys ignore them and keep walking. The closer they get to the mysterious ship, the more interference occurs in their communications, and the crew cannot hear them over the communications. The group enters the strange ship and finds a petrified alien on a chair. Dallas notices that the bones of the body have grown outwards, as if the creature had exploded from within. In another cell, Kane finds a large hole in the floor. On Nostromo, Ripley tells Ash that Mother decoded the message, which is a warning and is not an SOS. When Kane returns to the trio, he goes down into the pit and finds some kind of cave with strange leather objects that look like eggs. As Kane touches the mist covering them, a high-pitched humming sound is heard from, which suddenly falls to the ground, but quickly recovers and touches S egg, which appears to screech as something moves within it. At that moment, the top of the egg opens like S flower and it growls. So Kane looks inside to get a better look at the alien, but the creature breaks out and attaches itself to his helmet, causing him to fall. Lambert and Dallas soon bring an unconscious Kane back to the Nostromo, but when Ripley sees the creature, she refuses to open the door due to possible infection. An argument ensues, which ends with Ash opening the door too and ignoring Ripley's protests. Kane is taken to sickbay with the alien, and after body scans, the crew removes the helmet. It turns out that the alien has pierced S' helmet and wrapped its limbs around Kane's head, but he is still breathing. Ash attempts to remove S' alien limb with surgical forceps, but the limb only shrinks. They then put Kane in a capsule to take an X-ray. Discovered that the alien had inserted a limb into Kane's throat that supplied him with oxygen. The creature appears to have paralyzed him and put him in a coma. Dallas and Ash then decide to simply cut the creature off to remove it. As soon as they make a tiny cut, the disgusting liquid pours out and quickly begins to burn the ground. The crew immediately goes down floor by floor, watching how the fluid leaks through the different ceilings until it finally stops. Dallas uses a pen to gather some of the acid and concludes the alien uses it as a defense mechanism so they can't kill it. Afterward, Brett and Parker continue to work on repairs, and Kane runs some tests, discovering that the alien replaces its cells rapidly to protect itself from adverse environmental conditions. Ripley scolds him again for allowing the alien to enter the ship, but Ash just tells her to let him do his job. Later, Dallas, Ash, and Ripley go to the infirmary and discover Kane's face is exposed. Concerned, the group begins searching for the alien that falls from above on Ripley. She screams as she pushes the alien away from her, causing him to fall onto his back. Ash nudges the alien, causing him to move, but he is sure it is just a reflex and he is dead. They then examine creature more closely and find that it has opened from the inside. Ripley wants to get rid of it, but Ash says it's the first of its kind they've encountered, so it should be taken to Earth for further study. Dallas allows Ash to keep the alien, which angers Ripley. Alone, Ripley tells Dallas that she doesn't trust Ash. With repairs complete, Nostromo finally leaves the planet and makes its way to Earth. The crew begins discussing the possibility of freezing Kane to prevent the spread of a possible disease. But they are interrupted by Ash, who informs that Kane's condition has changed. The crew goes to sickbay and are relieved to see that Kane is healthy. He barely remembers the planet, only a terrible dream about the suffocating. The crew eats dinner together. Kane is hungry and eats a lot, but suddenly begins to choke and becomes very ill. A seizure causes him to fall backwards onto the table, so the team tries to hold his body up. At that moment, Kane's chest bursts and the alien jumps out, covered in human blood. The creature looks back and Parker grabs the knife, but Ash tells him not to touch it. The alien then screams and quickly runs out of the room. The crew tries to find him, but can't. The team then encases Kane's body and throws him into space. Now they can conduct a more in-depth search for the ship. Brett receives the spark rod and Ash announces that he has installed the tracking device, which will locate a moving object on the ship by detecting small changes in the air density. Dallas splits the team into two teams. He will go with Ash and Lambert, and Ripley will go with Parker and Brett. He tells them to place the alien in the air duct as soon as they find it and to constantly communicate with the crew. Ripley's crew walks down a very dark corridor on lower deck. The light needs repair, which means the circuit is broken again, and the crew pulls over to fix the problem. Since there is now enough light, the team continues their search and enters a dark room. The tracker appears to be tracking something, and the group screams as something jumps out, but it turns out to be Jones the cat, who quickly runs into another room. I don't want the tracker to feel like that another cat. Brett Jones chases and meows to get his attention. Hearing Jones meow in response, Brett follows the sound, but Jones hides again. At this point, Brett spots a strange, scaly skin on the ground and picks it up, but he is too disgusted and drops it again. He then follows Jones into another room, where a strange, threatening noise is heard. In the corner, he finds Cat, which soon starts hissing. Brett thinks Jones is hissing at him, but actually he has seen the huge alien who has descended behind Brett. When Jones growls and moves away, Brett turns around and finally sees the alien, who shoots a second mouth out to bite Brett in the head and pull him towards the ceiling while Jones watches from the shadows. Minutes later, Parker and Ripley inform Dallas that Brett was pulled into one of the air shafts by the creature. Dallas considers luring the creature into the airlock and sending him into space, while Ash points out that the creature seems to have acclimated to their air, but they don't know about temperature yet. Dallas orders Parker to rig a number of incinerator units, and Ripley volunteers to go into the air shafts after the creature, but Dallas says that he'll go instead. Dallas pauses at first to ask Mother for ideas on how can defeat the aliens and calculations on their chances of survival, but Mother doesn't understand the questions. Dallas then makes his way through the ventilation shaft, informing the group of his progress. Ripley opens the hatch for him and closes it when he has already passed. Lambert follows the developments on the screen and reports that the alien is somewhere around the third intersection. Dallas shoots the flamethrower at the hatch to make sure the path is clear and reaches the third intersection, where he goes down the stairs. Suddenly, Lambert tells him to stay at location, as she has lost the alien's signal. When Robert touches a nearby surface, he finds the strange goo. So he lights the flamethrower to create additional light, but sees nothing. At that moment, alien appears on the radar again and is heading straight for him. Lambert warns him to get out of there, so Dallas begins to climb up quickly, even though he doesn't see the alien. Lambert then screams as Dallas enters another cell, and the light reveals the alien. The radar becomes stationary and the location of Dallas is lost. Crew members try to contact him, but the line remains silent. Parker then places Dallas' flamethrower in the cockpit and says that he found it in the vent where Dallas was attacked. However, he didn't see Dallas or blood. Crying, Lambert suggests that board the shuttle and leave the ship, but Ripley reminds them that the shuttle will not be able to hold 4 people. An argument ensues, so Ripley yells to calm everyone down and proposes a plan. They'll go in pairs and cut off every vent until the alien is cornered. Then they'll blow it out into space. Afterward, Ripley goes to visit Mother to request enhancement, but Mother states that no. Further enhancement is available because it's for science officer eyes only. Ripley asks for more details, and Mother reveals that Ash has programmed the ship to make returning the alien to Earth for analysis its main priority, meaning the crew is expendable. Ash appears next to Ripley and says there's an explanation, but a furious Ripley grabs him by the collar and pushes him to the ground. Then Ripley rushes out and tries to get in touch with the others, only for the door to suddenly close. Ripley tells Ash to open it and goes to another door, but Ash closes that one too. Suddenly, a strange white liquid appears on Ash's head and his face twitches, so Ripley tries to leave. Ash grabs her by the hair and drops her, ripping out several strands. Then she tries to crawl away, but Ash grabs her by the jacket and throws her against the wall. He then throws Ripley through the door and grabs the magazine to put it in her mouth, intending to kill her. While Ripley fights him, Parker and Lambert appear and attack Ash, injuring Parker in the chest. After some more fighting, they manage to hit Ash with the fire extinguisher, and it malfunctions significantly as a white liquid shoots out of his throat. Parker hits him again with fire extinguisher, causing Ash's head to fly off. Wires and fluid are coming out of his body. Number confirmed that it was indeed an android, unknown to the team. The headless body continues to attack Parker, but Lambert lunges at him and punches Ash's body, forcing him to stop. Later, team gathers to examine Ash's body and concludes that the company must have needed an alien 4S weapons division. Parker pokes Ash's head, which slowly comes to life as more white liquid pours out of his mouth. Ripley asks Ash about the special order, and he explains that he must return Lifeform and that all other priorities have been cancelled. When Ripley asks Ash how to kill the alien, he replies that it is not possible because it is a perfect organism. After removing his head, Ripley tells the others that they will blow up the ship and take the shuttle. Before Parker leaves the room, he burns Ash's remains with a flamethrower. Lambert and Parker go down to get coolant for flight while Ripley prepares the shuttle. As she works, she is surprised to hear Jones meowing through the speaker and decides to go after him. As she searches the hut, she hears the rustling of and is worried for a moment, but Jones jumps out and makes her scream. Ripley then grabs the cat and puts it in the transport box. Meanwhile, Lambert and Parker are collecting supplies when they suddenly notice that an alien is in the room with them. The creature approaches Lambert and Parker tells it to move, which Ripley hears over the intercom. Lambert has no room to move and the alien is closing in on her, so Parker tries to help her, but the creature grabs her with its claws. The alien then catches Lambert with its tail and opens a second mouth before killing them both. Ripley hears her screams over the intercom, but by the time gets there, it will be too late. When Ripley sees the bodies, he begins to cry and runs away. Emergency room, she triggers the ship's self-destruct mechanism and then begins her journey back to the shuttle. Using a flamethrower for lighting, Ripley descends the stairs and finds a strange organic structure stuck to the walls and equipment. To her surprise, she discovers in room that Dallas is also stuck there, barely alive. There is also a board-like figure, which appears to dissolve into an egg-like object from the start. Dallas feebly pleads for mercy, so Ripley burns them both with a flamethrower. Afterwards, Ripley exits his hatch and retrieves the box containing Jones before running down the hallway and entering S shuttle. As the lights flicker, Ripley discovers the alien is around the corner, so she carefully escapes, leaving Jones behind. As the alien looks at the cat and hits the box, Ripley runs back to the computer and tries to stop the detonation process, but it is too late. Instead, she tries to tell Mother to stop, but that doesn't work either, so Ripley angrily punches S motherboard, then rushes back to the shuttle and finds Jones' carrier on the ground, but the cat leaves is good. The alien is nowhere to be seen and fire begins to engulf the corridor she just came from. So Ripley makes her way to the shuttle cabin and eventually takes off, with leaving the Nostromo just before she exploded in a massive explosion. Afterwards, Ripley puts Jones into sleeping capsule and also begins to prepare for bed. Suddenly the claw tries to grab her, and a screaming Ripley steps back to find that the alien has hidden in the shuttle to follow her. She runs to hide in a closet, where she begins to put on her spacesuit, observing the alien, who appears to be sleeping. Ripley also dons a helmet and grabs a harpoon gun before gets out and is strapped into a chair. She then presses some buttons to shoot steam at the alien, who starts screaming and coming towards her. At that moment, Ripley opens the hatch and a pressure of sends the creature flying. The alien holds onto the sides of the door, so Ripley shoots it with a harpoon gun to force it out. The alien now hangs on the door and tries to climb back onto the ship through the engine, but Ripley starts the engine, burning the alien and ultimately sending him into the abyss. Finally safe, Ripley writes a report of everything that happened and then joins Jones in the sleeping pod. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel.